Vishnuvad Paramahංsa Parivrajakichari Satarasata Shishiman Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Kuti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Shritai Gaur all glories to the Assembled all glories to the Assembled all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Today's Srimad Bhagavatam class speaker is preaching mainly in China. He joined the movement in 1977, and he is one of the leading devotees spreading the movement in China. His Grace Radha Charan Prabhu.
So we're reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 8, text number 49. This chapter is entitled, Lord Krishna Shows the Universal Form. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jatayo No Mahadeve Bhuvi Vishva Ishvare Aro Bhakti Syat Parama Loke Yaya Anja Durgatim Taret Jatayorno Mahadeve Bhuvi Vishvashvare Haro Bhakti Syat Paramaloke Yayanjo Durgatim Taret Jatayorno Mahadeve Bhuvi Vishvishvare Haro Bhakti Syat Paramaloke Yayanjo Durgatim Taret Jatayorno Mahadeve Bhuvi Vishvishvare Haro Bhakti Syat Paramaloke Yayanjo Durgatim Taret Mataji's. Jata. Go ahead. Jatayo. After we too have taken birth. Know both husband and wife, Drona and Dhara, Mahadeve, in the Supreme Person, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhuvi, on the earth, Vishva Ishvare, in the Master of all planetary systems, Aro, in the Supreme Lord, Bhakti, devotional service, Syat, will be spread, Parama, the ultimate goal of life, Loke, in the world, Yaya, by which, Anjaha, very easily, Durgatim, miserable life, Taret, one can avoid and be delivered. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Drona and Dara said, they are addressing Lord Brahma, please permit us to be born on the planet Earth so that after our appearance, the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller and Master of all planets, will also appear and spread devotional service, the ultimate goal of life, so that those born in this material world may very easily be delivered from the miserable condition of materialistic life by accepting this devotional service. Purport. This statement by Drona clearly indicates that Drona and Dara are the eternal father and mother of Krishna. Whenever there is a necessity for Krishna's appearance, Drona and Dara appear first, and then Krishna appears. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that his birth is not ordinary. Janma karma chame divyam. Then Prabhupada quotes the following verse. Ajopi shan avyayatma bhuttanam ishvaropi shan prakritim svamadishtaya sambhavami yatmamayaya. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all sentient beings, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text number 6. Before Krishna's appearance, Drona and Dara appear in order to become his father and mother. It is they who appear as Nanda Maharaj and his wife Yashoda. In other words, it is not possible for a sadhana siddha, living being, to become the father and mother of Krishna. For Krishna's father and mother are already designated. But by following the principles exhibited by Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda and their associates, the inhabitants of Brindavan, ordinary living beings, may attain such affection as exhibited by Nanda and Yashoda. You got that? There's hope. When Drona and Dara were requested to beget children, they chose to come to this world to have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as their son, Krishna. Krishna's appearance means parityanaya sadhunam vinashayascha duskritam. The devotees are protected and the miscreants are vanquished. Wherever Krishna comes, he distributes the highest goal of life, devotional service. He appears as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the same purpose, because unless one comes to devotional service, one cannot be delivered from the miseries of the material world, dukkhalayam ashashvatam, where the living beings struggle for existence. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 7, Maimevam so jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatanaha, manashastani indriyani, prakriti stani karshati. The living entities in this conditional world are my eternal fragmental parts. Because of conditional life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which includes the mind. The living entities are struggling to become happy, but unless they take to bhakti cult, their happiness is not possible. Krishna clearly says, Ashwadadhana purusha dharmasya parantapa apraptyamam nivartante mrityu sansmaravartmani. Those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, or conqueror of the foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text number 3. Foolish persons do not know how risky life is here if one does not follow the instruction of Krishna. The Krishna consciousness movement, therefore, has been started so that by practicing Krishna consciousness, one can avoid the risky life in this material existence. There is no question of accepting or not accepting Krishna consciousness. It is not optional. It is compulsory. Prabhupada is amazing, isn't it? Everything is explained, if we do not take to Krishna consciousness, our life is very risky. Everything is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, to learn how to become free from the miserable condition of material existence, Bhagavad Gita as it is the preliminary study. Then, if one understands Bhagavad Gita, one can proceed to Srimad Bhagavatam. And if one advances further, one may study Chaitanya Charitamrita. We are therefore presenting these invaluable books to the whole world so that people may study them and be happy, being delivered from miserable conditional life. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Janabhutale Swayandrupa Kadamayam Darati Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Manchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I beg the blessings of all the devotees so I can speak today. Thank you very much for allowing me to sit on this very special seat of Vyas. Now, I also have to offer some apology to Mahatma Prabhu for asking him not to touch text 49. It's very difficult because this issue of Drona and Dara is spreading over quite a few verses, and Prabhupada makes the same points again and again to make sure it is clear who is Drona and who is Dara, who are the eternally liberated souls and who are not. As a matter of fact, when you have one of those Prabhupada lecture device, any one of you got those? I bought one a week ago. My life has changed completely. You can hear Prabhupada lecture on the same verse one lecture after another in different places, and Prabhupada will speak on different angle of the same verse every time, which means it's unlimited how much we can hear about Krishna, especially from the mouth of the pure devotee. So I also apologize to Mahatma Prabhu because yesterday he said that I was so keen to discuss Drona and Dara, but actually I had no plan to discuss it at all. I wanted to concentrate on other part of the verse and the purport, but I had to do justice to his sacrifice, so I did a little bit of research yesterday, and I was just amazed what I found. And what I found is that actually I'm not supposed to give this class. The most qualified person to speak on this topic is His Holiness Shivaram Swami. He's sitting there in his home. I'm not going to ask him to come and speak, but I have his words here. When I did the research on the database, just key in Drona and Dara, and you're going to be pointed that most of the entries go directly to his book, Krishna Sangati. If you want to read about all the things we don't understand about Krishna's pastime, you have to read this book. And Maharaj deals with Drona and Dara only in the introduction. The introduction's got about 15 different topics. So it's actually quite amazing the amount of work that Maharaj has put in researching all these difficult topics. It's not easy to understand Krishna. It's not easy to understand Prabhupada's books, oftentimes, let alone the Goswami literatures, because it requires purification. It requires to be advanced in Krishna consciousness. Even the basic statements, such as you are not this body, how many can actually realize it 100% and act and shape their lives to really show that I am not this body. I am only spirit. So, there are a few points that I want to cover. There are quite a few important things that Prabhupada bring up that deserve attention today. The first thing that we need to remember is Prabhupada's point over 3 purports that Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj are eternal servants of Krishna. They are his Ladini potency expansion. They are always there. No one can become Nanda. No one can become Yashoda. This is set in concrete. There's no need to speculate about it. Then there is the other point that Nitya Siddhas have, or eternal associates of Krishna, they have their position firm in the spiritual world. Sadhana Siddhas, which is all of us here in this material world, can aspire to have such a position, but will never be able to replace that person who is serving Krishna eternally. So it's important to see the difference because it's helping us to understand where Drona and Dara come from. Now, Shivaram Swami has dished out from the Acharyas, because really that's all we can do is to just repeat the words of the Acharyas and maybe offer some of our understanding. And I also found some explanation by Jiva Goswami in this, the most wonderful book that I could ever read from the Goswami literatures, which is Gopal Champu. Gopal Champu is like drinking cups of honey constantly. It's such an amazing book to read. So Jiva Goswami also talks about Drona and Dara in his book, especially because it has to do with Krishna's childhood pastime. And at that point in the Leela, no one really knows who Krishna is. No one really knows how he ended up in Braj. And the whole family structure, which actually is coming from Mathura and split between the Kshatriya group and the Vaishya groups. Parjanya Maharaj, who has 5 sons, has selected, it is mentioned, it's a very nice description, he has selected Nanda as the tilak of the family. Nanda is right in the middle. You got your 2 eyes, you put the tilak right there. So Nanda is elected as the tilak of the family of Parjanya, and his older brother, Upananda, he has the right name because he is the elderly brother, therefore logically he should be the king of Braj, but he points to his younger brother, Nanda. He said, my name is Upananda, which means I follow Nanda. He has all the qualities to be the king. Once this is established, we have the daughter of Sumukha. Actually, we know about Krishna and Nanda and Yashoda. Do we ever talk about Mother Yashoda's parents? Who are they? Does anyone know? Who are the parents of Mother Yashoda? So it's mentioned in Gopal Champu, the father of Yashoda is Sumukha. Now, they marry and they are blessed, the union is blessed. Now they don't have a child and they want to have a child. Now it is also mentioned in the scriptures, Shri Prahlad Nrsimha Maharaj ki jai, that when Krishna comes to be with Nanda and Yashoda, they are actually quite elderly at that point. Most of their lives they haven't had a child. So they decide to do a vrat. They decide to perform some austerities. What kind of austerity? It's called Dwadasi Vrat. Dwadasi Vrat means that for 1 year they will only drink milk on Dwadasi day, which is the day after Ekadashi. That is their tapasya for 1 year. And after 1 year, Krishna appears to them and said, don't worry, I'm going to come. I always come when you appear. And then he reveals to them, you come kalpa after kalpa as Drona and Dara. And then you appear as Shri Radha Madhava Ashtashaki Brinda Ki Jai. And then you appear as Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. Now this, when I read this, it reminded me of something. If you recall, when Lord Chaitanya decided to take sannyas, first he spoke to Lord Nityananda. And gradually he started speaking to his different friends, intimately, privately. Now every evening at the house of Mother Sachi, there used to be kirtan and katha. Big crowd. But after everybody knew that he was going to take sannyas, they all came as usual, but they had a different facial expression. They were all morose. And Mother Sachi could not work out. What's going on tonight? There's something's happening. What's happening? Then Lord Chaitanya breaks the news to Mother Yashoda, to Mother Sachi, and she collapses. Now when you talk mother and son relationship, and whoever is a mother here will understand very clearly. As a matter of fact, when we do our cultural presentation in China, this is my strongest point. Mother-child relationship. Because when you try to understand mother and child relationship, practically speaking, you can understand everything. Materially and spiritually. So how can you pacify Mother Sachi? How can you pacify your mother when you're going to leave home? There's no such a thing as, okay, I'm satisfied now, you convince me, have a good life. No. Maybe externally your mother can say that, but internally it will never go away. It's a scar. Trust me, I've been through this. It never goes away. The mother-child bond is perpetual. So, Lord Chaitanya explains to his mother, he says, but we've always been together. We're never separated. And then he gives the list of all the incarnations. And then he gives the name of Mother Sachi as a mother in every incarnation, how she gives birth to him. So we're always together. So I'm not leaving you. I'm just going down the road to Jagannath Puri. So I can just go mad out of love for Radha and Krishna. Anyway, she doesn't accept it. She can't accept it, let alone Vishnu Priya. So I want to read to you what Shivaram Swami has discovered in his research. Just bear with me for a second. He writes, because first we know that Dara and Drona asked Lord Brahma for Krishna to come as a son. And as a side note, I also want to mention Sutapa and Prishni. This is very interesting because Sutapa and Prishni performed many, many austerities for actually 12,000 years, celestial years, to get Krishna their son. Now, when Krishna appeared after they finished their austerities, he says, what would you like from me? Ask me for any benediction. They say, we just want you as our son. And Jiva Goswami makes the point that Krishna agreed to be their son because they didn't want any benediction. In other words, they were prepared to take birth again and again in the material world just to serve Krishna, so that Krishna, just as Prabhupada's purport is mentioning, so that Krishna can come, paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya shaduskritam, dharma samstapanataya, sambhavami yuge yuge. Not interested into sarupya, shalokya, not interested to go back to the spiritual world. If I serve you in this material world, I am in the spiritual world. I mean, who would want to go back to Goloka Brindavan if you are with Krishna face to face here? Who is interested? This is Krishna consciousness. That's the meaning of being Krishna conscious. So, there is this aspect of Drona and Dara getting, there is a controversy whether it's a boon or whether it's a blessing. Because it will be mentioned later on that Brahma cannot give this boon that they will have Krishna as a son, because they are already designated. So, Shukadev Goswami's elaboration gives a second answer to Maharaj Parikshit's question. The Goswami now says that Krishna's parents descended directly from Aprakat, Braja, in their full expansion to Prakat, Braja, from unmanifested Brindavan to manifested Brindavan. Now we have two answers to the question. What did Nanda and Yashoda do to become Krishna's parents? The first is that the demigods, that's how they are qualified. The first is that the demigods Drona and Dara received Brahma's blessings. The second is that they did not have to do anything, for Nanda and Yashoda are Krishna's eternal associates. How can these apparently contradictory answers be reconciled? Srila Jiva Goswami reconciles them by referring to the rule of interpretation mentioned in Vedanta Sutra. The rules states, if there are two contradictory statements in scripture, the first statement should be interpreted so that it does not contradict the later statement. Now, applying this axiom to the example and the discussion, Jiva Goswami argues that Shukadev Goswami's first statement that Drona and Dara were demigods must be seen in light of the second statement that no one can become Krishna's parents, for Nanda and Yashoda are eternally assigned to those roles. Now the conclusion. Actually, Maharaj goes much further into these details, but the conclusion Jiva Goswami draws is that Drona and Dara must have already been Nanda and Yashoda but that they could have only been partial expansion. In Gopal Champu, Jiva Goswami mentioned Amsa Kala, temporary partial expansion. Given their status as demigods, and since Drona and Dara were already expansions of Krishna's parents, Brahma's blessing must have been a fulfillment of prophecy rather than an independent boon. In other words, it was already planned, it was already bound to happen. So you can give blessings, but the point is that they are bound to appear with you or without you. And there is a verse to qualify this, which is a verse from the 10th canto, chapter 9, text number 20. Nemam virischo nabhavo na shrir apyanga samshraya prashadam libire gopi yatat prapa vimuktidat. Neither Lord Brahma, nor Lord Shiva, nor even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from this material world, such mercy has received by Mother Yashoda. So even Brahma is excluded. He is only officiating. Why? Because he is the creator of the material world. So everything has to come through him. Brahma gives the sanction. Prabhupada in the purport mentions the word vimuktat. When after liberation one is situated on the platform of Prema Bhakti, one is said to have achieved vimukti, which is a special mukti, special liberation. And only Mother Yashoda and Nitya Siddhas can claim such a position. It's not mukta, it's vimukta. Very special position. So, I don't want to go further into the Drona and Dara because it's the end of the chapter. I think it's actually quite interesting to know and to be well informed so that we can appreciate the pastime even better. There is another section from chapter 78 of Canto 10 where I'm not sure who worked on the purport, whether it's Ridanda Maharaj combined with Gopi Paradana Prabhu, but there's a very extensive purport which quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on the winding up of the pastime. The other day we discussed, I think Maharaj was asking, how did everything unfold for Krishna to return to Brindavan? Krishna did return to Brindavan, but after meeting the Brij Basis in Kurukshetra, and they begged him to come back, he said, I'm sorry, I can't come. I still have a few demons to get rid of, but once I've done that, I promise you I will come. I have taxed my brain for a long time to try to work out these 3 chariots that form the Ratha Yatra, which we understand to be, and Lord Chaitanya bringing Krishna back to Brindavan, and Lord Chaitanya in the mood of Radharani. And I'm trying to work out, hang on, did Radharani actually bring Krishna and Subhadra and Bollaram from Kurukshetra to Brindavan? Did she do that? No, she didn't. Krishna went back to Dwarka, stayed in Dwarka, and then when he found out from Narada Muni that this fellow Dantavakra was creating trouble in Mathura, then he had a reason to go, because Mathura is next door to Brindavan, you know. That was the trick. So I asked different senior devotees, scholars, and basically, how do we understand this Ratha Yatra festival, this Ratha Yatra, this journey from the main temple in Puri to Gundicha, is that Srimati Radharani and the gopis brought Krishna back to Brindavan in their heart and in their minds. That is the Ratha Yatra parade. So, after Dwarka, he took permission from the Dwarka Basis, went back went to Mathura, killed Dantavakra and I think Salva, and then arrived in Brindavan. Stayed for 2 months, drenched the Brijbasis with tears and ecstasy and love and pastimes, and then winded up his pastime, put everyone on a spiritual airplane, and off you go. Drona and Dara also merged back into that position. And Prabhupada says they returned to Vaikuntha. These are, complicated details. So this is the point that I wanted to make. Now I want to move on to the next topic, which is the position of the Sadhana Siddha. Yesterday, Mahatma Prabhu mentions about Prabhupada's statement that if you chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulative principles in this lifetime, you go back to Godhead. He said it 3 times. I'm not sure if he banged on the table, but he did say it. Now, when you think about this very carefully, because some people say, after some years, you should do 32, 48, 64, you should stop everything and just get into Nam Bhajan. Then you can go back to Krishna. But Prabhupada did not expect the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to be a community of Bhajananandis, which is sit and chant. Prabhupada did say to the devotees, our only business is actually to sit on the bank of the Jamuna and on the bank of the Ganga and chant 24 hours a day. Who can do it? Who can do this? Therefore, I have initiated all these big projects to keep you busy, and they do keep us busy. So, these 16 rounds, it's not 64, it's not 48, it's not 32, it's 16. Prabhupada introduced this at 26 2nd Avenue. Now, when Mahatma Prabhu said this yesterday, I started to think, chanting 16 rounds, first, inattentively, means your brain goes all over the place. We all experience this every single day. You begin to touch your beads and then you press the button of the mind. And the mind goes all over the place. And when you finish the last, you pull the last number 16, turn it off. That's what we do. At least we can see by the result. 16 rounds attentively, so we can take advantage of the sound vibration and reach the level of Namabhas, and from the level of Namabhas go into Shuddhanam. Now, if you can even chant 1 round of Shuddhanam, Rupa Goswami explained, if you could chant Krishna's name once in Shuddhanam, you get prem. Let alone 16 rounds. Imagine, like Brojan Prabhu does this japa retreat. He says, just meditate on the word Hare, just meditate on the word Rama. I always tell people that when we introduce the chanting, it says, when you drink water, what options do you have? Can you drink and breathe at the same time? Have you ever tried that? Breathe and drink at the same time. It's not possible. So when you chant Hare Krishna, you chant to hear. You don't chant to think. The thinking comes later with Nama, Rupa, Guna, and Lila. Right now, we need to hear so we don't commit offenses. From the clearing stage to the pure chanting. If we can chant 16 rounds every day for the rest of our lives on the platform of Shuddhanam, without a doubt, we go back to Krishna. And this is supported by the 4 regulative principles. 4 bad habits of Kali Yuga. Prabhupada says, 4 regulative principles, you just made it to the human form of life. That's it. That's the only qualification. Now you are a human being. Now begin your spiritual journey. There are actually many people who follow those principles. There are people who don't practice Krishna consciousness who follow those principles without even knowing about it. It's just part of their life. They live in the mode of goodness. But when you ask them to chant, ooh, the chest is swelling. But you don't know. I'm very pure. I'm very compassionate. I'm very clean. I'm in a mode of goodness. There are many, many people like this. You find this in the New Age section of society. You find this with the Buddhists. You find there so many different levels of social system where people live in a mode of goodness, but it's not enough. It's only the beginning. So, to be absorbed in the chanting and to have regulated life in a mode of goodness is what will give us that ticket. Now, in the Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami explains the different levels of progression from controlling the mind and the senses all the way to sitting on the bank of Radha Kund. Radhe, Radhe. You know, between the two there's a long way to go, and it's a small book, it's only 11 verses. The entire philosophy of Krishna consciousness is contained in those 11 verses. But in text number 8, Prabhupada explains in the purport the gradual process, how one can be absorbed all the way to very intense, constant meditation on the pastimes of the Lord. And how by doing so we begin to follow in the footsteps of the Brijbasis. He said there are 3 different statements where Prabhupada mentions following in the footsteps of the Brijbasis, following in the footsteps of a devotee of Krishna. And then you may ask the question, but which one? The cow, the tree, the blade of grass, the river, this gopi, that cowherd boy, which one? How do we know? This is part of the sadhana process. And this is why the guru is side by side with the disciple, not just, like the Buddhists. When you take to Buddhism, the master will say, here is the way, here is the path, good luck. You're on your own now. No, not in Krishna consciousness. We come in touch with the devotees, we stay with the devotees, we come in touch with the guru, we stay with the guru. Jamne, Jamne, Prabhu She. Birth after birth. And back in the spiritual world. Not that, wow, finally I made it back to Goloka Brindavan. Now I can have my own space. No. Even in the spiritual world, you are told what to do. You follow all the time. Because that's the reason why we're in this material world. Because we want to have our own space. We want to have our independence. We want to have our freedom. Prabhupada said there is no such a thing as freedom in this material world. It does not exist. You become free when you surrender to Krishna. Then Krishna gives you everything. So it's interesting because why did the Goswami wrote all these books? They wrote 2 types of books. Books on sadhana and books on meditation. First we study those books and perform sadhana, and then at some point we'll begin to understand and get attraction. And we are meant to progress. We are meant to prepare to go back to Godhead. And when we prepare to go back to Godhead, it's not like we just turned up and say, what am I supposed to do now? Am I a blade of grass? Where do I go? I want to be a cow. I remember back in Paris in the 70s, devotees used to think during japa, so what do you want to be? I think I'd be a bird. You're more free. No. You are already, when you leave this body, your Sita Deha is already there. Your identity is already there. The Sahajas at Radha Kund, they give you Sita Pranali. Don't go there. Misleading. The spiritual master, it's revealed within the heart. This is Samvit Shakti. It's revealed within the heart and confirmed by the spiritual master. This is your eternal service in Goloka Brindavan. So we have to pay attention to this, but There's more. What is actually our position? Our position is that we are servant of Lord Chaitanya. This is our only position. We serve Lord Chaitanya. We serve the Sankirtan movement so we can get the qualification. So, we serve the spiritual master, we get the mercy. We get the mercy of the spiritual master, we get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. When we get the mercy of Lord Nityananda, we get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And then when we get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we get... Huh? Are you sure? We get the mercy of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. This is spoken by Narottam Das Thakur. We are to hanker so that we can understand the Goswamis of Vrindavan, how they were empowered to literally open up and unfold Brindavan, Brindavan pastime, the service of the Brijbasis, and included in that, of course, the divine pastimes of the divine couple, Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. We can't just go Mahaprabhu, boom. We have to follow. Otherwise, why would Lord Chaitanya send all the Goswamis to Brindavan? He could have done it himself. Through the Goswamis, we learn to be good sadhakas, and then we become qualified to understand where we belong in the spiritual world. Now I'm going to move to the next section. I don't have much time left, but I want to make a point here. The position of the jiva. Prabhupada points to the verse Jiva Bhuta and Jiva Loke. It means that we belong to this material world. This body, these senses, this mind belong to this material world. Mamevamso Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Manasastan Indriyani Prakriti Stani Karshati. We have a package with senses, with mind, and we struggle. This is who we are. The struggling race. The struggling species. And all the living entities struggle as much as we do struggle. Now, there are 2 verses, one in chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita, one in chapter 9. In chapter 7, Krishna says, Devi iesha gunamai mama maya duratyaya. Devi iesha gunamai. This material energy is my energy, and therefore it's divine. It's divine. That material energy is divine, but because the modes of material nature stand between me and you, you struggle. And you get confused. And you can't overcome. So unless you come to me, you can't go through those modes of material nature. Then in chapter 9 he says, Mahatmanas tumam partam devim prakritim ashritam. Again he mentions the word devim. Now, instead of being deluded by the modes of material nature, now the devotee has developed the qualities of a Mahatma. And what are the qualities of the Mahatma? Fully surrendered to the internal potency of the Lord. So it's a question of choice. Now I'm going to talk about the choices. Because in the last section of the purport, Prabhupada mentions, I mean, it's just amazing how Prabhupada is so straightforward. And he says, life is very risky in this material world. People take risk all the time. Practically speaking, if you look, let's say, even 70 years, 100 years, 200 years ago, let alone before, more or less you could work out what's going to happen. You knew when the seasons were coming. I remember when I was a kid, I could tell when winter was finished and when spring would come. Today, it could be snowing in the middle of summer. Unpredictable. Everything that people do today is unpredictable. Literally speaking, this human society today is constantly living on the edge of a cliff. Constantly. Anything could happen anytime. This year, We were expected to have 200 Chinese devotees to come for the festival. And suddenly, the GBC Executive Committee sent a letter to the Chinese GBCs, can you please tell the devotees not to come? It was a very hard decision to make. So we wrote a letter to the devotees, please do not come. We got a few letters of complaint. How dare you to forbid us to enter our eternal home, Sri Mayapur Dham? How can you take this away from us? We pleaded again and then asked the group leaders to please don't come. So they didn't come. Why? Because of the coronavirus. Now, just to put you at peace, none of our devotees in mainland China have been affected by the virus. Not only that, they even collected money. I think they collected, what's 100,000 RMB? About $18,000 that they sent to the epicenter of the epidemic in Wuhan as a donation for medical supply. They didn't send the money here, they sent the money there. This is a very good act of goodwill on behalf of the devotees, and they didn't say, this is from ISKCON, because no one knows about ISKCON in China anyway. It's just a personal donation. Now, how did they manage, and how did they still manage? Here's our dear friend. The one can literally destroy our spiritual life, and the one can help us make advancement. Raises age, the smartphone. Oops, what's that? Sorry, I got to answer this. How many of you look at your phone when you take prasadam? How many of you look at your phone when you chant japa? You know that finger? Very good. This is destroying spiritual lives. How many of you are talking to a devotee and be on the phone at the same time? It's an addiction. It's worse than a virus. It's an epidemic. But it can also be used to make spiritual progress. You can read Prabhupada's books. As a matter of fact, one time I was at home with my good wife, and she was sitting on the couch checking her phone. After 20 minutes, I said, I have to say something to her. So I said, can you please get off that phone and stop chatting online? She said, I just sold a full set of Prabhupada's books and 15 Bhagavad Gitas. Leave me alone. So you can sell books on the phone, and what the devotees did and still do is they connect with each other through this WeChat application. They do kirtan online, they have classes online, they have association online, they have arti online, and this is how they stick together. Why? Because you're not allowed to leave your home. You can't leave your home. You may have been following the news. The security people in residential quarters come and literally nail your door so you don't come out. Many people can't leave their home. I have a friend in one city, she orders the food online, the food comes through the security guard, put in a bucket and take it with a rope. Now it's easing up a little bit because it's gone everywhere else in the world. The Americans were pointing the finger, now they are the ones who are in complete anxiety about it. So devotees take risk. Materialists take risk. The question is, what kind of risk do you want to take? Do you want to take risk for Maya, or do you want to take risk for Krishna? Which one do you choose? Sorry. Okay, we want to take risk for Krishna. The more risk we take, the more mercy we get. I don't have time to go through the whole history of the Chinese Yatra, but the Chinese Yatra means every single day you take risk. Let me put things into perspective. And try to put yourself into the shoes of a Chinese devotee serving Prabhupada and serving the Sankirtan movement. No dhoti, no tilak, only kami clothes. And no sikha for the man. No temples. No harinam. No deities. No book distribution or very little. There is some book distribution, either online or we have one mega warrior in Shanghai who is fearless and goes out on books every day. Practically nothing. We can't have big festivals, we can't have Ratha Yatra, we can't have anything outdoor. How do the devotees live their lives? How do they make spiritual progress every day? In 1988, January, I was in Brindavan with His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami, and Indradyumna Swami came from the Amazon jungle. You must have heard about the Amazon jungle adventure. And he went to see, he said, Goswami, I want to talk to you. Yes? I want the next thing in pioneer preaching. Okay? He said, tell me what I have to do. He said, okay, you've got to grow your hair. You got to take off your neck beads. You got to cut off your sikha. You got to wear kami clothes. You can't talk to anybody. You can't come out of your house. You can't do books. You can't do harinam. And Maharaj said, I think I'll go to Poland. And that's what he did. And now he's about to turn Rishikesh upside down with this mega Sankirtan festival. So this is what it takes. The early devotees, especially the foreign devotees who came, they were put in one specific location and not move. These are the risks we take. Devotees went to jail. This is nothing to compare to what the Russian Yatra went through, believe me. Nothing to compare it with. But Russia now is opened. China will never open. You see, you have to live your life with that thought. When will we have a harinam? Sometime in the summer, devotees go into the park, mingle with the crowd, and pick up a harmonium and do a bit of a kirtan. It doesn't draw too much attention. But you can't have 200 devotees down the street. Everyone will get booked. Everybody. So these are the risks that devotees take. And we need to take risk in Krishna consciousness so we can get that mercy. In other words, Sankirtan is the fast track to get the Guru's mercy, to get Krishna's mercy, and to purify our heart, coupled with our daily sadhanas. This is the message that Prabhupada is giving in this purport. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and also when Krishna comes, he comes also to deliver the conditioned souls. But he has condition, from what we know in Bhagavad Gita. Mahaprabhu puts no condition whatsoever. Come as you are. Just chant Hare Krishna. Lord Nityananda took risk. Srila Prabhupada took risk. Devotees take risk every day. It's actually it's kind of an intoxication. The more you expose yourself to danger, the more enjoyable it is. Let's go here, let's go here. This is how my experience is. You want to make fast spiritual advancement, that's the way to do it. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Gaur Premanandi.